1. I live in a duplex, where the home has been split into 2 levels, upper and lower. The tenants are the owners and landlords. I live in the bottom floor unit. We have an entryway that's grated floor to ceiling. Within that grate is our front patio, which has access into the garage and my unit. Further around the building is a separate entrance for the upper unit. Each main entrance, gate, garage, my unit, top unit, is connected to an alarm system. With all of that said, my landlords and neighbors are very uptight about safety and security since they're kinda cookie, and they have small children to look after. We don't live in the safest of areas, so I do appreciate the sense of security. At the moment, they are out of town on a family holiday, so it's just been me going in and out. Last week, I came home late and tried my key in the garage door like any other day of my routine life, except it didn't fit. I inspected the doorknob and the keyhole was actually upside down, meaning I had to insert the jagged side downwards to fit, instead of the jagged side upwards like it's always been. It struck me as incredibly odd and a little worrying, but I was tired and didn't think much of it. I was dog-sitting my other neighbor's pup at the time and figured I would hear some sort of commotion if someone were actually inside my home. I don't know, drunk logic. Anyways, the key thing happened again the next night. And again the next, and again the next. And I was beginning to wonder if someone actually did break into my home and stole something that I just didn't realize I was missing. And then last night, I was really worrying that someone broke into my landlord's house and stole all their stuff while they were gone. So I gave them a ring and asked if the alarms ever went off on their phone alarm monitor app, to which they answered no. I told them about the doorknob thing, but they didn't seem to remember or care which direction the keyhole was facing. But they did reassure me that they were heading back home this week, not because of my distressing call about upside-down doorknobs, just because their vacation is over. But the absolutely weirdest thing of all is I came home 30 minutes ago and put my key in jagged side up when I came in, checked the door and it's back to its original position. Do doors do that sometimes? I've never come across this in all my years of using doors, so maybe I'm wigging out. Maybe someone broke in and courteously came back to fix my door. Or my door's evil AU twin came to torment me for a week or so. Thoughts? Edit. Another weird little detail, or maybe not, I really don't know anything at all about doors and doorknobs, is I turn the key clockwise to unlock, but with AU knob, I also turn the key clockwise to unlock. If it were installed upside down, does it still work like that? Is it backwards? Am I completely off in my doorknob physics? Someone help. 2. I hope this makes sense first and foremost. I suppose I'm looking for people who may have experienced something similar to any of the things I'm about to mention. In terms of background, I'm 26, I live in the UK, and I was pretty much teetotal until the age of 21. No drink, no nothing, nada. I have a genetic disability which is caused by a defect in the structure, production, or processing of collagen, or proteins that interact with the collagen in my body. I'm hypermobile to a freakish extent, and if I'd been born in another era, would probably have had to run away to the circus. I'm horrendously clumsy, have no spatial awareness, and have got myself into some pretty terrible accidents over the years, which said disability has saved me from becoming horrendously injured from. My disability means that, aside from my prescribed medication, I'm teetotal again and rarely drink. I've never been the kind of person to make things up or embellish stories, because it annoys me and genuinely upsets me when other people try to feed me bullshit. So, on we go. When I was around 6 years old, I remember running across the road by my school without checking the traffic was clear. My sister was supposed to pick me up from school, but I had a feeling she was late. So I wanted to wait on the correct side of the road for her. I was halfway into the middle of the road when I heard a car beep frantically to my left. I turned my head toward it. and clenched my eyes shut. When I opened them, I found myself back at the curbside I stepped off previously, and the car was driving up the road to my right. After that, Walker's crisps were blue for cheese and onion and green for salt and pepper, when I swear I remembered them being the other way around. I don't know. Part of me thinks I was just a very lucky kid who somehow ran backwards in a panic and didn't realize what she was doing. But the other part, well, what if I'm in another reality? What if my other 6-year-old self died? It's all kinds of fucked up. I've also struggled with strong déjà vu my entire life. And at an impromptu charity medium night, one of the mediums approached me and asked if time played tricks on me regularly. We had an in-depth conversation, and he mentioned a man called Roland. Now, Roland is a name that goes through my father's family for generations, usually used as a middle name in honor of somebody, but my dad is sketchy on the details as he doesn't know much himself. Roland had a dog and a collection of clocks, and apparently was sending me love and compassion for the tough road I have ahead. The message ended with, "It's going to be a hard slog, but it'll be worth it." This is one of our family sayings. So basically, I have an old man called Roland supposedly watching over me. He knows that time plays tricks on me. He's possibly my ancestor, and communicated via a medium who comes from down south and who isn't familiar with local phraseology, and who would only be in my area for that one night. I wasn't even supposed to go to the event in the first place, but ended up taking my mum. I've also been incredibly lucky. I've come close to breaking my neck alone in 2 bad horse riding accidents. The first accident happened when a young horse spooked mid-canter and threw me into a wall. The second accident happened on another young horse who got overexcited during a group lesson and threw me into another wall, where I landed with my legs over my head and my body twisted. I was only saved by my genetic syndrome, whereby I tend to bend and dislocate rather than break bones. Believe me, that is one of the only positive applications my disability has. During another indoor lesson, thunder and lightning started up outside, and the horses spooked. I came off at speed and somersaulted in the air before hitting the ground. A difficult task as I'm 5'11" now, and must have been at least 5'9" in my mid-teens. My dad said he would never have believed it if he hadn't seen it with his own eyes. Another time I was riding up a slate mine after heavy rain with my group. Another horse fell behind us and tried to scramble up ahead and fell again. I had the sudden urge to get off my horse and felt that if I didn't, something terrible was going to happen, and we'd both fall down the embankment to our right and into the trees and rocks below. I dismounted, pulled my horse away from the edge, and tried to help with the fallen Ned. I was able to act as a buffer between my horse, the fallen horse, and the horses behind us. If I'd still been in the saddle, when the horse behind us panicked, I'd have been dead. It was a very instantaneous warning. The hairs in my arms were standing on edge, and I felt really strange. It was beyond déjà vu. If anything, it was like that day on the road as a little girl, when I should have been hit. Something warned me. Maybe the death of an alternate parallel universe self or something else. The final part of this is, well, it's hard to believe, and easily written off as a childhood bad dream. It took place a few months to a year after the road incident. I was left alone in my house for approximately 5 to 10 minutes, while my mom popped to the shops down the road. In her defense, it was 1996 or 1997, and my local area was safer than it is now. And my dad was on his way home from a night shift in work. I'd been napping intermittently on the couch. It was a weekend and Cartoon Network was on the TV. I was distinctly waking up and feeling wrong all over. It was a primal kind of fear that I don't think I've felt since, and I'm glad. 3 figures entered the house. They were shaped like men, but I couldn't make them out. They were black and fuzzy. They were talking to me, but I was the only one making noise. I have the distinct feeling they were trying to take me somewhere. I freaked out and started crying, and then they ran out the back door. My dad then unlocked the front door, came in, saw me in a state of distress, and asked me what was wrong. I was a child, so all I could say was, 3 black men came into the house and ran out the back door. He's an ex-policeman and went running to check, but had to unlock it to go outside. Similarly, the front door had been locked until he came home. My mum arrived 10 minutes later. I remember it causing a bit of an argument until they reasoned I'd been asleep and had a nightmare that woke me up. I hope this is the case, but this memory has resurfaced after a while laying dormant. I last recall talking about it as a teenager with a friend, who also said it must have been a nightmare. Now I'm not so sure. If anyone has read the Fuzzy Man story and subsequent comments from other Redditors from Search and Rescue Woods here on Reddit, my recollection is somewhat like that, except I wasn't calm like other children. I knew they were wrong. So that's all I've got for now. I'm feeling quite creeped out by my own memories tonight. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to ask. I have other stories to share. 3. I was in 2nd grade and sat towards the back of the classroom nearest the door. I was feeling rather antsy that day, not really able to focus on anything due to my grandmother being in the hospital. My teacher was aware of the situation and understandably let me be, so I was just letting my gaze wander. I recall looking over my shoulder and seeing my brother outside in the central area of the school, looking rather lost. I was immediately panicked. Had something happened to my grandma? Was I in trouble? Did I forget my lunch? I raised my hand and let my teacher know that my brother was outside, and after pointing him out, she had the observation that he had a paper bag in his hand, which was presumably my forgotten food. I was allowed to go out and flag him down, but as I left the classroom, he turned a corner, seemingly unaware that he had passed my bungalow. I jogged after him, and after a few seconds turned to see nothing there. There was no place for my brother to go from there, let alone hide behind. What the heck? In my logical mind, I assumed he went to the office. I jogged to it, a whole 20 feet away from where I was, and again, nothing there. I didn't want to ask the secretary if she had seen him because I thought I would somehow embarrass my brother. I know it was him. He was wearing this very distinct, bright orange Superman shirt, with the symbol being navy blue. He is only a few years older than I am, and I wouldn't confuse him for anybody else. Dejected, I walked back to my class. The teacher pulled me aside later and asked me what had happened. Said she noticed my demeanor and lack of lunch. I explained myself, and she decided to call my mom. Turns out my brother was with my mother all along. He understood what was happening with my grandmother and wanted to say his goodbyes before she passed away. They were just getting ready to head back to the hospital when my teacher had called to inquire about my brother's whereabouts. It was my brother I saw, but it wasn't at the same time. I still have no explanation for this. 4. Back in 2001, I was living in a studio apartment with my boyfriend. The building was in a bad neighborhood, but we made our place cozy. That was all we could afford at the time. Anyway, we're sitting on the couch, which is in the middle of the studio, acting as a divider between the bed and the living space. The window and sliding doors are closed because it was chilly outside, and me and my boyfriend are talking, enjoying our time together. All of a sudden, we hear someone speaking through a radio right next to our ears. We don't own a radio, just a cheap TV from the pawn shop, which was off and away from us. It lasted just a few seconds. A guy was talking about some construction work. It was like a CB radio signal that truckers often use, coming from the middle of the room. We both heard it and automatically looked at each other. And then we checked under the couch and searched everywhere and found nothing. We did not even have a cell phone at the time or other form of electronics. We talk about it from time to time. It was so weird. Now something similar happened yesterday. Things have changed. We now live on a huge farmland with no neighbors. We built our own house in the middle of a field, 500 feet from the road. We own 2 dogs. They were both outside last night, and when it's dark, I always tied up my big Australian Shepherd because she likes roaming away from the house, which is okay during the day. But at night we can't see shit if there's no moon. We are in a dark sky reserve region, so no unessential outdoor lighting. My smaller dog can't handle the cold weather for long periods of time, so we let her in as soon as she wanted. My big Aussie girl stayed outside. She sometimes gets tangled and barks when she's stuck. Then we go out to help her. Of course, we both hear her come and get me bark. My boyfriend went outside and came back with the dog. She comes straight at me to sit on my lap, even though she is 65 pounds, to get her usual loving scratches. As soon as she reaches me, we hear her bark again. We looked at each other puzzled. I shook my head in disbelief, and my boyfriend went to check outside in case there was another dog. He took the flashlight with him but saw nothing. Both dogs were in the house with us. It sounded just like my dog. I don't know what to think. But that is pretty awesome if it's a true glitch in the Matrix. 5. I had a synchronicity experience this weekend. That was one of the strangest synchronicity moments I've ever had. I've experienced the phenomenon of synchronicity in the past, and I've been fascinated by some of these synchronous moments. But this one was almost like someone or something was showing me the depth and weirdness of the universe in which we live. So here's what happened. I took a day trip to Ojai, California with my dog. I was having a shitty day and had to get out of LA and away from my annoying neighbors. I've been to Ojai before and really dig its laid-back small-town charm. The beauty of the surrounding mountains and orange groves is like a balm to my soul after a week of fighting traffic and living a hectic life in LA. The sun was setting and I decided to head back home to LA. I checked Google Maps and the best option for getting home was via a back route that passes through a hilly rural area to Santa Pola, and then east via the 126 to Fillmore and Santa Clarita. A bit longer to get home, but it was better than sitting in traffic on the 101. I sometimes listen to podcasts while driving, and have an app on my phone that connects to an app via my car stereo. It doesn't link up very well, and I sometimes can't choose which podcast I can listen to, or they'll be out of order. So I decided to just listen to whatever was next in my queue, which happened to be Here's the Thing, hosted by Alec Baldwin. He was interviewing the CEO and founder of Starbucks, Howard Schultz. I happened to stop at a Starbucks drive-thru in Fillmore, California, to get some coffee while listening to the beginning of the interview. But that's not the synchronicity that was profound. I paused the podcast while ordering my coffee and then unpaused it when I got back on Route 126, headed towards Santa Clarita, and the I-5 interchange around 20 miles northeast. I enjoy Alec Baldwin's interviewing style. He was asking Schultz some interesting and not so typical questions about Starbucks. Baldwin asked Schultz about Starbucks locations that do particularly well. Schultz answered the question and named a store in Chicago located at Rush and State Streets. Schultz asks Baldwin if he knows Chicago and that location, and Baldwin gave him some vague answer. I lived in Chicago for a while and tried to remember that particular location that Schultz had just mentioned. As I was thinking about Chicago and where I lived in Chicago, I realized that it's been so long that I don't really remember the exact street locations and names anymore. As I'm thinking this, my eyes focused on a single road sign about 100 yards away. The road sign said Walcott Way. Walcott was the name of the one and only street I lived on when I lived in Chicago. I lived on North Walcott Avenue. I was blown away by that synchronicity and don't know what to make of it. I yelled, "What the fuck?" so loud, it woke up my sleeping dog. How does this happen, and what do you think it means or signifies? Any thoughts or advice? Edit. I'm not sure if this increases occurrence of synchronicities or if it's relevant, but I've been kinda down on life lately, and I've been having a very hard time here in LA. Hey everyone, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to 5 True Glitch in the Matrix Stories, number 22. Thank you very much for everyone who allowed me to use their stories, and also thank you to the author of story number 4, who is a subscriber who sent that story in to me. Thankfully, I was able to put this video together at the last minute, so I'm very grateful for everyone who made that happen for me. I'm not 100% sure about TIFU though. If I can't, then it might be double paranormal, like I was going to do today and Friday, so we may have that Friday and Saturday. Not sure. If I can get the TIFUs, then I'll do a TIFU. Okay, and with that I'm going to head off for now, so until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.